Hey everybody, what is going on? Hexlex here. Got another Master Duel video for you, coming at you with Radiant Typhoon Maliss. Now you might be wondering what in the world these archetypes could have in common with each other. Is it really possible to go from Radiant Typhoon plays into Maliss? And the answer is yes, it's quite easy in fact. You can do it with Eldum or Swen or Chant plus any monster you can normal summon. To do it with Eldum, we're going to begin by special summoning Eldum and then activating the effect in order to add the Swen from our deck to our hand. Now we can special summon the Swen, since obviously our opponent still does not control any spell or trap cards, as it is turn 1. Swen gets to activate. We're going to add a copy of Chant. We already have one in hand, but just ignore it, pretend it's like another hand trap or something. Okay, now we're going to go Chant, add another level 4 or lower Radiant Typhoon monster, which is actually just going to be another copy of Swen. Because now we can link into the Cherubni, Ebon Angel of the Burning Abyss. If you've played Burning Abyss or Phantom Knight or some adventure decks, you're probably already used to the effect of Cherubini, which can send any level 3 monster from our deck to the graveyard as a cost. So we're going to send the Dormouse. Gets a minor attack buff, but obviously getting Dormouse into the graveyard is the more important thing. Now we can normal summon Swen, and now we're going to take our Cherubini and Swen and link them into Haggard Lizardos. Haggard Lizardos, of course, has the ability to banish any monster out of our graveyard. If Master Duel won't freeze. Wow, I've never had that happen before. Anyway, we're going to banish that Dormouse that we sent. Again, we'll get a minor buff, but the more important thing is that we are now banishing Dormouse, which can now revive off of its own effect. We're going to special summon the Dormouse and then activate the on-field effect in order to banish the Maliss White Rabbit from our deck. We're going to activate White Rabbit's effect, revive, and then activate the on-summon effect. It's going to let us set the TB11 directly from our deck. Now, normally, at this point in the combo line, if you started with, like, Gold Sark for Dormouse, you'd have to make Splash Mage, but because we already have the link to Lizardos out, we actually don't even need Splash Mage for this combo line. Instead, we're going to go straight into the Maliss Whitebinder, using Lizardos as 2 materials, and the Dormouse that's on our field. Alright, we're not going to activate the on-summon effect of Whitebinder, because there's really no point to banishing anything from our graveyard, but we can activate the on-field effect of Whitebinder in order to set the MTP from our deck. Now, at this stage, we're going to activate the TB11, banishing the Whitebinder on our field, and special summoning Chessy Cat from our deck. Now we get the Whitebinder effect. We can revive, we can draw a card. We're still not going to activate the on-summon effect because we still don't really need to banish anything from our graveyard in particular. Okay, so now at this stage we're going to activate the MTP. We're going to banish our Chessy Cat that's on the field, and now we can add March Hare from deck to hand. No need to banish a card. And then Chessy Cat will revive. Now, you could activate Chessy Cat in order to banish March Hare, draw 2, and then get back March Hare, but we actually want to activate March Hare's banish effect later in the combo line for a specific reason, so I will not be doing that here. Instead, we are going to summon the Cyberus Witkid. We can use Whitebinder and White Rabbit as materials. And now we are going to want to summon the March Hare by banishing our MTP from the graveyard. Now, you could summon to Witkid's Zone, however, we don't want to activate Witkid yet. We're going to do that in just one moment. First, I want to link summon Link Decoder using the March Hare as a material. And now, this is why we have not activated Chessy Cat or Witkid yet. Now we're going to activate Witkid, banish the March Hare out of our graveyard, which in turn will allow us to add the backup Ignister. Now March Hare can add itself back off of its own effect. Okay, from here, let's activate the effect of Backup Ignister. We can special summon. And then we'll get to activate in order to add from our deck to our hand the Wizard Ignister. We'll then discard any old card, as long as it's not March Hare. Alright, now we can go for the Wizard. Can target either of our Maliss monsters and revive it, as well as special summoning the Wizard. Okay, now at this stage, we're going to link summon into Heartscriptor using Link Decoder, one of our Maliss monsters, and the Wizard Ignister. This allows Link Decoder to revive. And now we're going to make directly under Wicked Firewall Dragon using Heartscriptor and Link Decoder. Okay, next up we're going to make Splash Mage. I know I said that you could do this combo line without Splash Mage, but if you want to get the full board, you do have to use it right at the very end here. No need to activate Firewall Dragon. We are going to activate Splash Mage in order to revive really any one of these monsters from the graveyard. Doesn't particularly matter which, because now we're going to go for the Allied Code Talker Ad Ignister, using Wicked as 2 materials, Splash Mage as 2 materials, and then Dormouse is going to be our 5th material. We're going to drop this directly over our Firewall Dragon, and then now we get to activate the effect of our Allied Code Talker Ad Ignister. I'm not going to use Firewall Dragon, we're going to save that. And now we can revive the White Binder. Can put it in the zone here next to the Firewall Dragon. And at this stage, we have already used the banish effect of all of our Maliss monsters. And even if we hadn't, like in the case of Heartscriptor, if we were to banish with White Binder here, we would not be able to summon because of the Allied Code Talker Ad Ignister. So once again, there's not really much of a point to activating White Binder here. And this is also why we kept the March Hare in our hand, by the way, instead of banishing it away to draw 2 off of Chessy Cat. Because March Hare is how we're going to actually access the Heartscriptor. This is also why we banished MTP earlier, because basically during our opponent's turn we can go March Hare, banish Heartscriptor, Heartscriptor summon herself, then Heartscriptor can put back the MTP that's banished, and then use her effect in order to get a non-targeting banish during the opponent's turn. Also, because it'll point to a monster, if you put Heartscriptor in the right spot, then it won't be able to be responded to. Although with this setup, it's not really that feasible, but that's just a little bit of a cherry on top anyway. This is, of course, on top of your Firewall Dragon bounces and your Allied Code Talker Ignister Negate. And we even have the White Binder on field for posterity's sake. So yeah, that's basically how you can turn a Radiant Typhoon starter into a Maliss endboard. Now that I've shown you this example combo line, let me show you some gameplay. Okay, we're going to start off with some going second games. This first game will be us up against a 60-card White Forest deck, opting to play an extended Dragoon package, as well as a few other spellcasters here. But as mentioned, we're going to be going second because it's apparent enough what Maliss can do when going first. Here our opponent's going to lead with the Esteller of the White Forest. I'm going to use Imperm specifically and not Ash Blossom against it, because Imperm's a little bit more limited in what it can negate here, right? Like, I could potentially use Ash Blossom against Tails here if I really wanted to, but I also know that even if they go for like a Rasila, I'll be able to Ash Blossom that. Or we can simply Ash Blossom the Elzette they're about to add, which will cost them another card from their hand as well. Yeah, our opponent just discarded a That's Finished, or sorry, a You're Finished. I got it confused with Bats 10. They're going to be teching a lot of very interesting spell and trap cards, some of which we're going to see on our turn here. Alright, draw phase, I'm going to go for the Vision for MST, and now I can go MST on one of my opponent's face down cards. We're going to hit Sinful Spoils Subdual, which will actually end up summoning an illusion monster from the deck. It's going to end up being the Nightmare Magician. I told you my opponent was on a lot of weird tech here. That's what you get for falling down to Platinum. But Nightmare Magician is going to make battling pretty much not an option here. Obviously, it can't be destroyed by battle, but moreover, even if I try to battle something else, they can still destroy a card on the field. So we're going to make sure to keep that in mind. We're going to lead it with the Malice in Underground here, banishing the Dormouse. Now we can activate Dormouse in order to summon, and then go for the White Rabbit. It's really nice that we already have the backup Ignister in hand, and basically, when you're going second with Malice, what I'm going to be doing here is mostly just trying to aim for the Accesscode OTK as quickly as possible. That's going to be using Accesscode as well as the Malice Heart Scripter. The idea being that we can Heart Scripter can not only banish a card with her own effect, but then we can link her into Accesscode Talker, and, well, you're probably about to see here in a second. Accesscode Talker can then banish the Heart Scripter, destroying a card, as well as Heart Scripter reviving with 5,000 attack. So here, like I said, we're going to use the Heart Scripter effect. This MTP that got banished earlier, I'm going to use to pop the face down card, or banish it rather. And in case you missed it, there's actually a Storming Mirror Force. So this is why it's always worth extending your combo line to remove all of your opponent's face down cards before you go to battle phase. Literally never know when they're rocking a Mirror Force. You could run into it at any moment. Now, as mentioned, we're going to make the Accesscode Talker. This can activate targeting the Heart Scripter, and our opponent's going to concede here, knowing what's coming next. I'm going to activate Accesscode Talker. As mentioned, this will banish the Heart Scripter, destroy their Nightmare Magician. Heart Scripter then revives with her attack points doubled, leaving me with, I think, including the White Rabbit, that should be well over 12,000 points of damage, and all they have left is a 0 attack point Stellar in order to defend them. Obviously not going to do a lot for them there. So there's one example of it going second game. Here is another. And this time we'll be going second against heroes. Of course, they're going to be utilizing a lot of the new masked hero support. So let's see if we can open some more hand traps. And sure enough, we've got quite a few here. I mean, yeah, it's really easy when you have the room like this deck does to play a lot of hand traps. Not only are we on a lot of the standard stuff like Sea, Ash Blossom, Fua, Droll, but we get to play Bestials as well. Bestials not only acting as hand traps, but also extenders. Obviously, banishing our own Malice cards from the graveyard is something we want to be doing. Okay, now here they are going to Ash Blossom our Maxi. I, in turn, am going to Ash Blossom their Dusk Crow, which would allow them to add the Furnace from deck to hand. Instead, they're going to normal summon Destiny Hero Denier, and then link into the Extra Hero Cross Crusader. This would normally try to revive the Denier, however, we have the Druistorm, and we're going to use that against the Denier here. Their last card in hand, last because we know the actual last card is Fountain, ends up being Maxi. So they're going to cycle for a draw, and then pass back over to us. So we know that their hand is Fountain and one unknown card. We're going to go draw phase Chant, and they're going to concede to that, which is kind of funny because I like to imagine that my opponent, I mean, I guess to be fair, you can always look at your opponent's deck after the game is done, but I like to imagine my opponent being like, what kind of Radiant Typhoon deck plays Bestial monsters? Well, this kind of definitely does. Yeah, even without top decking the Eldum there, Chant actually would have been enough to go full combo, because we already had the Druistorm on board. We could have gone Chant for Eldum, Eldum for Swen, Swen for either MST or Visions, or Chant for MST. Either way, it doesn't really matter. Yeah, then as always, we link it to Cherubini, dump the Dormouse, and again, we already have Druistorm on board, so then Cherubini plus the Druistorm would then make Haggard Lizardos, banish Dormouse from graveyard, bada bing, bada boom, full combo from there. All right, I got one example of a going first game here as well, before I show you the deck list and we finish off. And this last duel is against what I can only describe as a Platinum deck. It's got like Magnet Warriors and Water Dragon stuff, and a couple of hero cards, and Maiden. It's pretty much just Yu-Gi-Oh! GX the deck, like one of every GX card. Anyway, going first here, we're going to lead with Draw Phase Chant, which we love to see the Ash Blossom used against, because of course it saves the Ash Blossom, or it saves us from having to get our main combo Ash Blossomed. Gonna lead with the Dormouse. Dormouse banishing White Rabbit. We're gonna go for the White Rabbit effect. Now, I'm gonna warn you right off the bat, I am not gonna do this combo line optimally. I'm really not, because this was like among my first games playing Radiant Typhoon Maliss. But I'll be honest with you viewers, this was also my first time playing Maliss in like, I think over 2 months. It's been a while since I've come back to this deck. Which is also reflected by how few Malice videos I've made on the channel since whenever they got last hit on the ban list. And Yeah, I don't know. I thought when Maliss was revealed that I would end up liking the deck more than I actually did. Because I looked at it and I saw the extra deck was all Cybers, like the Mathmech stuff, or a lot of stuff you would see in Mathmech. And I was like, well, that sounds cool, but I don't know. There's something about the Maliss playstyle. The combo line is just, it's really difficult for me to feel like I have a grasp on. I think it's really the main thing. And it doesn't help that the combo line has been constantly changing with the ban list updates. Not that Maliss hasn't deserved the hits, but I will maintain, by the way, my stance that I have of that it was Maliss that deserved the hits and not Splash Mage. Like, I've seen some people complain because Radiant Typhoon Maliss got first place in rating duels, but for one, that doesn't mean that Maliss is a tier 1 deck. I think it's definitely still a tier 3 deck. But also you have to realize that this month in rating duels, right, was also the same month as a Duelist Cup. So a lot of the players who would be grinding rating duels were grinding the Duelist Cup instead. Meaning that, I'm not going to say that the results aren't valid, because that's simply not true, but worth taking with a slight more grain of salt. Yeah, here I definitely should have made the transcode talker, as well as putting Firewall Dragon in the middle, like underneath the allied code talker. And yeah, that would have definitely been a more optimal end board. I'm just so used to this variant not comboing with the transcode talker every time. Because if you lead with Radiant Typhoon stuff, you can't use Transcode Talker, because you cannot special summon the turn you activate this effect except Cybers monsters. Meaning, if you special summon non-Cybers monsters, then make Transcode Talker, you just can't activate its effect. Now here, our opponent just normal summoned Maiden Love and went right in with attacking the Firewall Dragon here. I'm going to chain the Infinite Impermanence, which will negate it, stop it from being unable to be destroyed by battle, and they'll take the damage, of course, on top of that. Now, the Imperm will not stop them from placing a Maiden counter on my allied Code Talker at Ignister. However, without the Maiden Love actually being on the field, the counter doesn't really do anything by itself. Although I do really like seeing this little heart icon on my monster. Kind of wish I could see it a little more often. It's cute. But, yeah. We're just going to go ahead and swing in and end the duel right here. Okay, so that's it for our gameplay. Let me show you the deck list here, and then we will finish off the video. So the deck list that I'm using is 1-for-1 lifted from Amaterasu, who did get first place in rating duels, as mentioned during that last game, with Radiant Typhoon Maliss. Really, really cool stuff. I love the innovation to take a completely unrelated archetype and bridge it into another one. That's why I love pile decks. I mean, I've always said this, that's my favorite element of deck building in Yu-Gi-Oh! I really like the creativity that's at play here. And it's also why I really don't like archetype locks. Like, I know a lot of people will say that more archetypes should lock within specifically their own archetype, but I feel like that's really boring. I feel like at that point, Konami's just building your deck for you. Anyway, yeah, so there's a lot of the stuff you would expect to see from Maliss in here. We're still, of course, on like the Gold Sark and the Underground, and we're on one of each of the trap cards as well. But again, we're playing that Radiant Typhoon package here. 1 Eldum, 2 Swen, 1 actual MST, 3 Chant, and then 1 Vision. So the idea being, of course, as mentioned during the combo line at the beginning of the video, that you can go to Cherubini, dump the Dormouse, then go into Haggard Lizardos to banish the Dormouse and start your Maliss plays. If you wanted to, you could play a 3rd Swen. I really don't think you need any more copies of Eldum. Because the thing was opening with Chant, I guess to be fair, it really just depends on what exactly you're trying to accomplish, right? If you want the 1-card combo line to be 1 card more often, then you could go up on copies of not only Swen, but the Eldum as well, and go down on Chants. Because if you open Chant, you add in special the Eldum, and then Eldum adds Swen, add in special Swen, but then you only get the 2 bodies, right? You need to have like another random monster in your hand to normal summon to then also be able to make Haggard Lizardos. However, I think it's a lot more important to just be able to have like more deck thinning opportunities, which is why I like seeing the Chants. Like if you're gonna be opening Chant and then 4 other cards that do not lead you into Maliss plays at all, like odds are one of them is gonna be a hand trap that you can normal summon. So the only hand you really get punished for opening Chant is if you also open 4 other spell or trap cards, which again, minuscule odds of that actually happening. I guess to be fair, you could also open like Magnum Hunter Druistorm that you can't normal summon either. Although no, that would still be fine because you could still make Cherubini dump the Dormouse and then use your Bestial to banish the Dormouse. So yeah, that actually still works. Oh wow, how about that? Anyway, long story short, these ratios for the Radiant Typhoon engine are really solid. The one of Vision I think is very optional. I think it is nice to be able to have something else to add, but it's also kind of what MST is for. The searchable MST is actually also pretty clutch for being able to pop back row when you're going second and make your going second plays a little bit safer in that regard. Let's see, I'm trying to think if there's anything else I want to go out of my way to mention here. I mean, if you're familiar with Maliss, then by seeing the combo line, you've already seen how Radiant Typhoon slots into the deck very nicely there. Yeah, I think we're going to go ahead and end off the video. As always, I want to thank you all so very much for watching, but now we're going to go and move on to our outro. Hey everybody, Hexlex here. Thank you so very much for watching all the way to the very end of the video, which by the way is one of the best ways to support the channel. Speaking of supporting the channel, take a look at the names on screen. These are folks who have been so generous as to either join as a YouTube member or subscribe over on patreon.com/Hexlex to support. There's also perks for doing so. If you would like to see YouTube videos early, as well as some exclusive videos that get uploaded to YouTube, but for one reason or another I decide not to publish, definitely go ahead and hit that join button to see content early as well as some exclusive content. If you're looking for more exclusive content, over on patreon.com, I upload exclusive videos that are not posted on YouTube just about every single day. Whether you choose to subscribe over on Patreon, join as a YouTube member, or simply continue to watch, your support is greatly appreciated. Thank you so very much. But for now, this is Hexlex. I am signing out, and I hope that you have a fantastic day.